I'm talking this morning about all of these external provocations that continue. If you guys have been following along for the past 5 years, someone made it my job to speak as an advocate on behalf of everyone who is being underserved, exploited, etc., and so forth, whether it's because of racial issues, whether it's because of mental health issues. And this is not a job that pays well. As a matter of fact, they don't pay much of anything. And I think that they do that tactically so that I cannot up and leave, literally. So let's talk about it. Yesterday I was at a government office and I heard a man say, "You're doing this because I'm black." And I wanted to get up and say to the man, "Nope, nope, they're not doing this because you're black. I'm white and they're doing it to me, and there's lots of other people who they do it to. Being black probably doesn't help, but no, it's not just because you're black. I'll tell you why they're doing it. Systemically, these people in these positions who are, quote, doing this to us, they are programmed to do it. They are programmed to not ask, am I doing the right thing? They are programmed to not look deeper for meaning. They are programmed to accept surface value explanations from their superiors. And they are programmed to judge people who look poor, people who look ignorant, people who sound uninformed. Those are the three largest categories. Does it happen a lot more to black people than other, nationalities? I really don't know. I don't know the statistics, but it makes sense that it would. It makes sense that it would happen the most to minorities with a language barrier and black people who are still trying to recover from oppressive regimes and direct ancestors of slaves who have not been able to make it yet. That's who it feels like it would affect the most. I happen to be white and poor, so it has happened to me. I know lots of other people who are poor and it has happened to them, and I can get into more details. If you come into a government office and you're dirty, right? Or if a police officer arrests you and you're dirty, and what I mean by dirty is unshowered, hair unkept, no makeup on, in a dirty outfit, right? Dirty clothing. What's going to happen is, and forgive me for not being center screened while I'm doing this, I'm getting ready for the day. But I felt like due to the provocations I've been experiencing this morning, it was important for me to say this and explain this to those who don't understand. It is your responsibility to listen and to hear and to understand, because we are the future, and only this understanding and learning of knowledge can promote change, and also, whether incremental or abrupt, implement that change for future generations, as well as older generations who are still suffering from a lot of these unresolved issues. People basically get into habits, whether you are a Chipotle line person who puts meat on rice, or you are a government worker who puts people in jail. People get into programmed norms, and what they do every day over and over, they become more and more comfortable with doing, and it almost becomes like an automatic reflex. And an automatic reflex is something like breathing, right? We don't have to stop and say, take a deep breath. We just breathe, right? We just breathe, because we are programmed through our central nervous system to remember that we need to breathe. It's kind of also like muscle memory. If you do something for a long time, even if you stop doing it, it comes naturally once you pick it back up. So when we're talking about handling people, sadly, it becomes just like the Chipotle, scoop your rice and your beans into your bowl. It doesn't, people are not getting the individual considerations in which they deserve. And when someone appears to be unkept or dirty or has poor grammar, subconsciously, whether the person on the other end of handling them is realizing it or not, they're understanding that they can get away with explaining themselves less and doing more to control that person's outcome. I truly don't believe that most people who are involved in this unethical process even know that they are, but they are, and it needs to stop. If people are poor, they need to be made wealthy. They need to be made prosperous. The only way to resolving these issues is to giving people enough. And I've spoken at length about universal income, and also about, poverty being the real enemy and the real problem. Also about the evolution of digital currency as a resolution to these problems. But when you handle people in the way that they are rice and beans and meat, rather than individuals with needs and emotions and, human beings who deserve to be heard and deserve to be repaired and restored and vindicated and lifted rather than pushed. We are not rice, beans, and meat. We don't require, the same scooping each time over and over and over. We all have different needs. We all have different reasons that brought us to where we are. But at the end of the day, money wins. So it's going to remain a situation of uneven, unfair, just people can leverage with money. And it has got to stop. Every single time I make a little bit of progress in escaping this very, very oppressive situation that I've been held in for approximately 5 years, it's like they just grab me around the waist and pull me back. And if I'm not diving headfirst into someone else's problems, they make those problems my own personal problems so that I can demonstrate what I would do to, number one, identify the problem, number two, communicate the problem, and number three, correct the problem. Because there is a giant demographic who does not know and cannot do it on their own. I like to think that I am well-spoken and articulate enough to be able to communicate, but what ends up happening is people get lost in their ego and in their pride. And even after I or someone else communicates the true problem, hey, judge, hey, officer, hey, whatever person in authority that you're choosing to speak to, I think you're handling this wrong, and here's why. Some of them are determined to improve, and therefore they open their minds and listen, and whether they agree or not, they give it some serious thought. Others are not open-minded, and ego gets in the way, or pride gets in the way, and that power trip that they're on gets in the way, and they say, well, I don't care about the ethics in regards to the situation. I'm the boss here, and so this is what's going to happen. When you're dealing with someone like that, a lot of people on the millionaire mindset, they say, just don't deal with them, just leave. But what they're refusing to address on the millionaire mindset is that in doing so, and they probably know this, they're probably just refusing to address it. In doing so, you have to sacrifice a lot. And when I say you have to sacrifice a lot, I'm talking the well-being of people that you love. I'm talking the peace and protection of people, places, and things that you love and truly care about. It's a very, very selfish decision to run. But then they argue back, it's selfless. I don't want to be, being dragged for the rest of my life into this misery and into, protecting and explaining and describing what's going on just so that people can choose not to make the change anyways. Being dedicated to improvements doesn't mean that I have to live, breathe, eat, poop, fart injustice. I and my family have not received justice or vindication in years. I don't remember the last time that I was able to curl up with a book, listening to my children laughing in their bedroom next door, and fall asleep in peace knowing that my family is together with me, safe and happy. I have a 3-month-old baby that is somehow being caught up in whatever this is, and it's not fair. And every single time that we discuss these issues, it comes back to, well, there must be something wrong with the mother. There's nothing wrong with the mother. The only thing wrong with the mother is that her eyes are wide open, as are her ears, and she sees everything that is taking place. Until we get to a space of offering people enough money to survive, and not just survive, but live, to eat the foods that they see everyone else eating, to wear the clothes that they see everyone else wearing, to participate in the activities and the education that they see everyone else engaging in, we are going to face these issues. It is never going to change. And the only proven method of receiving any sort of attention to matter is when the authority and the one who is absolutely refusing to acknowledge the circumstances becomes the victim. That is the cycle. It's sick and it's sad, and I don't know how to fix it other than to say universal income is the answer. That's it. You could be equally as powerful with the person next to you, and now you guys are equals and you're peers and you can discuss things. And if someone is so dumb that they will frivolously, spend money on things that don't matter, then they never had power or control to begin with. So what are you worried about? I keep on trying to make sense why universal income continues to get thumbs down and snubbed. It is the only answer. And I've discussed this at length in numerous other videos and podcasts and interviews and discussions and private conversations and public ones alike. When you give people enough, when you give people what they need, they can be okay. People are not generally resorting to violence or robberies or forceful crimes unless they are so oppressed that it is their only way. Another direct quote from Tupac: "I ain't never did a crime I ain't have to do." Who can relate to that? How many of us can relate to that? I'm tired. I'm truly tired. And when I say I'm tired, I mean I muster up enough energy to smile at my children, to check on them, to try to hide as much of this as I can, to give them love as they give me. They're my only fuel. My only fuel. But I am exhausted. When I get back from doing little tasks, I feel like I need to lay down again. You've got to spread this out over more people. I can't handle so much. I want to be with my children. I have a 3-month-old son that because of this, because of the forced advocacy I'm being literally forced to participate in, a court system, a power and authority is claiming that I need to have some sort of rigid distance from my children. Some sort of very structured interaction. And they don't even let me discuss details. If you are a human rights or civil rights attorney, if you are a power or an authority who can help me, please, my DM is always open. The provocations, the incessant text message, the incessant DMs of harassment to my loved ones and family, the repeated police reports that I have filed, the repeated reports I've provided to the state of Illinois, the repeated reports I provided to the Federal Bureau of Investigations, they've all gone unanswered. All of them, every single one. I have no reason to lie. I am being trapped in the center of a demographic that is incredibly oppressed and silenced, and a demographic committed to continuing their oppression and silence. And I'm asking someone to reach down and pull my family and I, and when I say my family, I mean specifically my children. Pull us out together. Not one by one. Not separate us all over the country like you have the rest of my family. Grab your big claw machine and reach in and grab all of us together. Make the changes. Help the people. Do whatever needs to be done so that I can see my child for more than 6 hours a week, please. Please. This is not a matter of people wanting fancy things. This is not a matter of people being selfish to, harm others because they're jealous. This is not a matter of pettiness. This is a matter of there are people who are still not being reached with needs, who don't have money for clothing, who are being oppressed authoritatively, who are not being assisted. And for that reason, I am being, as they refer to it, as recycled. They are using me as, quote, recycled energy, renewable energy. That is a direct quote. I deserve to be in my own home. I deserve to be applying the college education that I have and numerous courses that I've taken in addition to the college education that I have, in addition to the several years and more. By several, I mean 6 years in one health institute of practice as the administrator for endocrinology, rheumatology, diabetic education, and nutrition. helping more than 40 doctors on any given day, being on call for each and every one of their patients' needs. I have proven myself with my professional record. I have no criminal record. I am being forced to take a various plethora of government trainings that they offer to the most oppressed individuals when the most oppressed individuals just need money. They don't need an 8-week Zoom course on, how they should do X, Y, or Z. They don't need it. They need money. They need stability. They need housing. Please. I'm feeding my son 3 days a week, 4 days a week. You guys know I have a personal blog, and that has been my entire life for the past, 7 years or so, 6 years or so. And there have been 2 periods of time when I have been under a non-disclosure or an order that I'm not permitted to share certain details of my life with the general public, which is incredibly difficult to do, especially when I have a personal blog and the details of my life they're asking me to withhold are about 70% of my existence. So I'm doing my best to withhold those details, but what I would like people to understand is that I am one of those oppressed individuals right now for a reason that the algorithm is not making sense. That's why I wrote syntax error. That's why I posted syntax error. Someone reformulate the algorithms. If you know, you know. When we're talking about, I have a breast pump and I'm pumping breast milk for my son 4 days a week and feeding him 3 days a week. And I'm afraid because if my breast pump goes out, I will lose my milk supply. What does a normal woman do if she's afraid her breast pump will go out? Anyone? She gets up, she goes to the store, and she purchases another breast pump, right? Now, if we had universal basic incomes, I wouldn't be feeling any anxiety at all over that. I would be feeding my son healthily. I would be pumping milk regularly. There would be no issues, right? But because I am being kicked face first into the demographic of oppressed, paying my phone bill and affording a backup breast pump in addition to a regular amount of clothing is proving to be problematic. Not because I'm unwilling to work, not because I'm refusing to earn my own income, because I am quite literally being manipulated and oppressed into this position, into articulating the oppression that those who cannot articulate are feeling, into being the voice for the voiceless. And silencing me only works for so long, because as soon as you lose interest in keeping me quiet, they come back and turn up my volume. I'm not the only one. I'm one of many. There's nothing wrong with my mental health, and I don't have any substance abuse issues. I just want to be with my children and my family. That's all I've wanted this entire time. Please help these people. Please.